Happy Friday evening, everybody out there in podcast land. I hope everyone is doing very well. Hope you're looking forward to a fantastic weekend. We didn't get too good of a kickoff for the weekend ourselves here. Just finished up the Astros-Yankees game, and man, that was a heartbreaker. We thought we had this one in the bag with Verlander on the mound. We did not. He gave up 4 runs in the first, but he is stellar all the way out, all the way through. Other than that, so it's kind of unfortunate. I hate seeing a JV give up some runs like that, especially so early. And things are not always as they seem, and that's one of the reasons why I love baseball so much. So part of me is upset, of course, because I'd rather have been able to celebrate tonight instead of biting my nails for tomorrow, for tomorrow's game. But the other part of me is happy because we get another game of baseball. So I would really wish that Cole was on the mound tomorrow, but I think it's going to be a bullpen day, so we'll see what happens. So that's enough about that. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you all about tonight, and I'm really excited about this topic. So I'm going to talk about some of the ridiculously awesome cards from the late 80s and early 90s, the junk wax era. So if you don't know what the junk wax era is, let me educate you real quick here. It's generally speaking from 87 to 92-ish. 88, 92 is really kind of the heart of it. But it's when basically baseball cards were, just really a thing that everybody and their brother and sister and mother and dog were into. So as a result, production levels of these cards were super sky high, and because we didn't have the internet, nobody knew how many of them of each card were out there. So in other words, you didn't have somebody selling 150 or 200 count lot of 1988 Topps Nolan Ryan. You just you didn't see that. So there was kind of like this I don't know, almost like a manufactured scarcity, just that was veiled behind not knowing what else was out there and who else had everything else. So production levels got to be, at one point, it's been estimated approximately 4 million cards of each card were printed, probably, I want to say in the 91 season. So 1991 Topps, 1991 Donruss, and which is why a lot of people that are collectors will say it's just firewood and just dump those cards. I am not in that camp. I love them. There's so many things that you can do with them, even if they're art projects. You give them to your kids, you sell them for cheap by the box. I mean, there's so many things you can do with junk wax. It's great, and plus it's like my childhood. So for me personally, it's almost like a sin to to damage these cards, unless it's for like an art project or something. So but anyways, nevertheless, don't think that just because it's from that time period that it's not worth anything. There are several variations, 91 Topps and 90 Donruss, and there's actually a website out there called Junk Wax Gems, and they apparently spend a lot of time documenting these undocumented, unchecklisted errors, and player collectors go nuts after these. So we're talking $1, $2, $5, $10 cards. That's not what I'm going to be talking about tonight, though. What I'm talking about is the really expensive ones, and I'm going to actually be zeroing in on about 4 different types of cards, and really excited to tell you about some of these stories here too that are associated with them. And of course, I'm going to focus on the sets that Jose Canseco was in, because that's kind of really what I know most about. So we're going to go ahead and start off with 1986. And so 86, everybody knows that his main card is the 1986 Donruss rated rookie card. It is perhaps arguably the most iconic card of the 80s. I know 89 Upper Deck Griffey is probably taking that that trophy home with it, but Canseco's card at its height of popularity was hitting $150, $175 from what I've heard. And back then, let me tell you something, that was not something that I was even dreaming about because it was wildly out of my grasp. I just didn't have a chance to even consider getting something like that. And so I guess I forgot to turn off my notifications here. Hang on, let me do that real quick. So anyways, for 86, you also have like 86 Donruss the rookies, 86 Donruss highlights, and of course the tops traded Fleer with Eric Plunk, and it looked like kind of like a Napoleon Dynamite or something, or on that card, or whatever it was, but an 86 Fleer update. So the one that we're going to be talking about tonight is 1986 Donruss highlights. There is a variation of that card that has the word highlights in the front of the card in white. Now, once you get one of those, it's a very, very, very big deal. In fact, for Canseco, you can expect to pay $300, $400, $500 for one of those. And it is his rarest rookie card, and hardly anybody knows about it. So I've had two of them in my life, and I'll talk to you about how I got them. So first of all, I've only seen one for sale, and a fellow super collector named Matt actually picked one up. I saw it, and I told him about it, and I think he ended up getting it for $325 or something, which was a fabulous deal. So really cool. The first one that I got was when I picked up an entire collection. It was in there, and it's one of those cards, and I don't know, you've probably had this this happen to you as well. You might pick up a bunch of cards or a collection or something, and there might be some really cool cards in there, but they lose their meaning when they're picked up in bulk. Like for me personally, I have a lot more of an interest and an excitement in a card if I pick them up one at a time. It costs more that way, but you know, you're able to actually focus. Like I literally bought somebody else's super collection to start off with on my own Canseco super collecting journey back in 2014. So I had some 96 Select Certified Mirror Blues and Reds, and by the way, gotta give a shout out to that 96 Select Certified Mirror Gold Jeter PSA 10 that just sold last night for $202,000. Holy crap. But anyway, so this collection had everything, and it was good because I was able to get a lot of stuff to start off with. It was bad because cards like the 86 Donruss Highlights white letter variation went largely unnoticed for a while. It wasn't until probably a couple years after I had it where I pulled down and go, huh, you know something, this is really something special. I mean, truly. And you know, the 86 Donruss Highlights set itself is nothing, is really nothing by itself to write home about. There's some cool cards in there, like there's Roger Clemens, Will Clark, Bo Jackson. I love that they did a different color of the card than the regular 86 Donruss and 86 Donruss rookies. But really, out of those three offerings for Donruss, everybody would probably agree with me. The highlights cards were like the redheaded stepchild of all of them, because they just weren't as flashy or cool. It's more of like a, hey, check out what happened this year, instead of, you know, having the flashy rated rookie logo or the rookies logo. My gosh, I loved those logos. I mean, oh, I had dreams about those logos on cards. But highlights, not so much. But anyways, there's no telling how many of these white letters there are out there. In fact, I don't even know how they've come to exist, because I've never been able to get a straight answer from anybody. Some people have speculated that they opened a case and like one of the sealed sets had all white letters in one of the sets. You know, but I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it was just maybe they were prototypes or proofs, and you know, just not really sure. So that kind of adds to the mystery. I really like a good story. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to research, research about the backstory of whatever I'm interested in collecting. I love that stuff. But anyways, so it's a fun card, and there are all kinds of different players in there. I think Roger Clemens is in there. I think Nolan Ryan might be also, if I remember correctly. Kirby Puckett. So for player collectors, you know, it's a nice little 56 card set that you know, if you want to pick up the rarest type of card of your guy for 86, that is the set to target. Almost all of the key players will white letter versions will run into the hundreds of dollars. So anyways, that's kind of my pitch for 86 Donruss highlights white letters. I sold my copy, and if I remember correctly, I might have actually traded back for it from Matt, when I come to think of it. But anyway, so I have another one now, and I think that's the one that I sold off to Matt to begin with. So I'm super happy to have that card back in my collection. But moving forward, you know, and it's kind of fun because I like those variations, because the 86 Donruss highlights, otherwise that'd be like a $1 card, $1, $2. Instead, you know, we're looking $300, $400, $500. So nobody would bat an eyelash at saying, you know, that's something that's pretty significant, especially for the junk wax period. So moving forward, we're going to go to 1988 Topps, and 88 Topps, y'all. I mean, you know this as well as I do. It's probably a lot of your childhood memories are wrapped up in it as well as me, but 88 Topps is a dog of set. It's got the Tom Glavine rookie, and I can't even think of anything else. That was even remotely interesting in 88 Topps. But yeah, I would definitely call it a dog of set. So you know that there were some different errors, like the McGuire record breaker has the white triangle, and the Eddie Murray record breaker, you know, had like a stamp on the front. So, but what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about some cards that could not be pulled in packs. And this is the 1988 Topps cloth test issue. The cloth test issue was actually, from my understanding, a callback from the 60s or 70s, where Topps wanted to give it a go again, print the cards on cloth, and sell them like that. And it made sense, because back in the 80s, they tried to do that with everything, because everybody was buying this baseball stuff. Well, for one reason or another, I don't know if it's because it ended up being a situation where it was too costly to make or what, but as the story goes, there's about 50 of the sheets that were made, and it was printed right over the sheet that said something like test production, not for resale. Which, whenever I hear that and I get cards from something like that, my you know, I get goosebumps. I love that stuff. So there's no Canseco in that. There's actually the A's team leaders card, which was Canseco and McGuire on there. So out of the 7 sheets, I think it is, that Topps creates their complete sets out of, I believe only 1 sheet was done for test purposes, and I think they created 50 of them, and there's no telling how many of those sheets of cloth actually survived, but some of them were actually chopped up and ended up into the hands of other people's collections. So as far as the first one goes, which this was a fun story in and of itself, and I literally just remembered about this as I'm talking here, so I'm super happy to be able to tell you the story, and this will give a good segue into the next story as well. Because by the way, these cloth cards can go for $400, $500, $600, $700. So we're talking a big deal for these cards. And by the way, I think there is a Glavine. I think the Glavine made it on the sheet. I think there might be, what else? Man, I don't even remember. Maybe a Don Mattingly, perhaps. But anyways, really cool, a really cool set. So anyways, I remember writing an article online, and talking about, hey guys, I put my entire collection on my site. Check it out. Here's my want list also. And at the very top of my want list was the 88 Topps cloth A's Team Leaders card with Canseco McGwire, for obvious reasons. I had never seen one for sale before, and to this date, I still have not seen another one of these for sale anywhere ever. So what happened was pretty special. I remember waking up in one morning after I wrote the article, and somebody wrote to me and said, "Hey Tanner, I love what you wrote, love what you're trying to do with your collection. I'm curious though, it doesn't look like it, but do you have the Topps cloth card?" And I don't know about you, but like when I wake up, normally I'm not like, I don't go from 0 to 60. I'm like sluggish and everything. Well, that very question woke me up real quick. Woke me up quicker than Mountain Dew could. And so I wrote him real quick. I was like, no, I don't have it. Yes, I am interested. Do you have something? And he said, yeah, I'm not interested in selling though. I was like, oh man. Oh. I was wondering why he would ask, because I guess maybe he was just showing off. I'm just not sure. But anyways, it's like, okay, well, thank you for reaching out. I was kind of glad to know that somebody out there actually had one. So maybe if he ever decided to sell, I was thinking at least I have that in my back pocket. But ultimately, he wrote me back and he's like, yeah, I'm really not interested in selling, Tanner. I'm sorry. But what I am interested in doing is sending this to you for free. Oh my gosh. And sure enough, 2 or 3 days later in the mail, I get this 1988 Topps cloth Canseco McGwire card. And I've still never seen one for sale ever. And I was so floored that somebody would be so kind and generous to do that for me, which is really, really neat. And so anyways, that was kind of a fun thing. And so as a bit of a segue, he also said another day later, he's like, oh yeah, hey, I noticed that you don't have a 1989 Leaf Blue Chip card. I was like, well, do you have one of those? Because with as much as I love the 88 Topps cloth, the 89 Blue Chips, I love even more. And I'll tell you a little bit more about them. Probably, let me go ahead and start off with the actual story of the 89 Blue Chips here first. So if you're familiar with 1989 Donruss, which I'm sure you are, they made a little subset called Grand Slammers. So for the 89 Grand Slammers, what they do is, if you remember correctly, or if I remember correctly, which I do because they are ingrained in my head forever, I will always remember what they look like, because I love the 89 Donruss set. But in the bottom left-hand corner, like, it looks like a regular 89 Donruss card, but the bottom left-hand corner has kind of like this triangle that says Grand Slammers in it. So there are 4 different color choices. There's like blue to purple, purple to red, green to yellow, and yellow to red, I think. So yeah, I think there's 4 different variations. So, and they're really not worth anything. I mean, they're basically just commemorating the players that hit grand slams throughout the year. So what blue chips are is the exact same design, but instead of a triangle in the bottom left hand corner, it's kind of like a semicircle, and it says blue chips. And I'm going to try to remember as hard as I can to be able to tell you the story, because I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm just on my walk at night here. So but anyways, to go back to kind of tell you a little bit about how important these cards are. These cards, not every super collector of Canseco has these. There's a Donruss version and there's a Leaf version, and so they're pretty significant. And I don't think I've ever seen a Canseco for sale, and I don't think I've ever seen many of these players for sale. But anyway, so the person, and his name is Bob, by the way. So Bob, if you're listening, hello. Thank you again so very much for your generosity, but on the Tops cloth. But Bob told me that he had a 1989 Leaf blue chip card of Canseco. He said that one's really not for sale. And I was like, oh man, so excited about at least hearing that somebody else had this card also, just like the cloth. So I get a knock on the door a few days later, and I'm telling you guys, like, my head is turning. Like, what can I do? What can I offer this guy to get this card? So excited about considering getting this card, even though it looked like there's no possible way. So my head's churning. I'm thinking about it at night, and that's just how I roll. And so I get a knock on the door, and it's the mail lady. And she says that I have to sign for something. I'm like, okay, sign it. No idea. And I open up the box, and there it is, a 1989 Leaf, Jose Canseco, and blue chip. And I probably squealed like a little girl for the whole neighborhood to hear. No joke, for like 3 minutes. I couldn't believe it, because these are holy grail cards I'm talking about, guys. So it's not just like oh, that's a cool card. This is a card that where, like the cloth card, like the white letter, if you see it for sale, those types of cards could go for crazy money, because you just never see them, and you don't know if you'll ever get another chance to. So, oh man, I wrote him, oh, thanks so much, and all this, and I told him, man, I appreciate everything. I mean, I can't believe you did this for me. I don't even know you. You don't even know me. And so I asked for his address, and he said, Tanner, please do not send me anything. In fact, I insist that you don't, because I have people sending me things, and I feel guilty because I've got everything I want, and I do not want to have this feeling of having to keep something. That's just going to take up space. So okay, well, I respect that. So what I did is I ended up making 4 cards. Like I researched about him online, like what his likes were and what he is passionate about, and I ended up making 4 cards starring him, and I ended up sending them to him. And he wrote me back when he got them. He goes, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you did these. These are beautiful. Oh, I'm so happy with these. Thank you. And I'll be honest with you, Tanner, whenever I first saw these, I was in the mail, I groaned. I audibly groaned, because I was afraid that you sent me some cards that I didn't really want, and I was going to have this responsibility to keep them or something. And he said that he was just in love with these cards I made him. So I was so happy about that. It took quite a while to create them. I made 4 of them for him. It was the least I could do. I mean, my gosh, I couldn't imagine anybody giving anybody else a couple Holy Grail cards, let alone just a stranger. So I knew I had to do something. So anyways, fast forward a little while longer, and this guy reaches out to me because I wrote about these and told the world of Bob's goodness and his kindness and generosity. And my website got hit on the search engines for 89 Leaf blue chips, and so people would start asking me questions. Well, one thing that was interesting is this one guy asked me, and he said, I think I have some of these, which, I'm going to obviously say, sorry guy, no you don't, you've got the Grand Slammers version, nobody has these. He said, no, I actually used to work for Donruss. And I go, oh really? And he sends me a couple of pictures of what he has. I go, holy crap, this guy actually is the real deal. He's got some blue chip cards. And I told him, I was like, hey, look, I'd love to possibly purchase them, maybe as kind of a resale situation though, because I already have my Canseco. I don't care about anything else, Didn't care about the McGuire, or the Ellis Burks, or the Mike Greenwell, or Dave Winfield, or who else was in there? Alan Trammell, maybe. I don't remember. I'm just Eddie Murray, I think, but I'm just kind of going off the top of my head, because really, literally, the other guys didn't really matter to me. So Anyways, he would go in and out of responding to me, and I wouldn't hear much back from him for a while. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And so, a couple years went on, and I didn't really think much about it. Like I had my blue chip and was excited, and then I decided to sell out, and I ended up doing a deal where that card went with somebody else, and the blue chip that I was given. And Bob asks me, "Hey, Tanner, I see you're selling out your collection. Do you have my blue chip? Because I would actually love to buy it from you." I felt terrible. I didn't even think about that. I go, "Oh no!" And so I was like, "I'm so sorry, Bob. It's not here." He goes, "Tanner, no. I gave it to you. Don't feel horrible at all. Not one bit. I just wanted to ask. That's all. No problem. No worries at all. Please, seriously, don't give another thought." Well, guess who gave it a lot of other thoughts? Me, because I felt terrible. I couldn't believe I didn't even think about possibly giving him his card back. Obviously I'm not going to sell it to him. So, but I felt terrible because it wasn't a situation where I could just buy back the card at any cost. It was gone, and I had no options until I started thinking about that guy that was a worker at Donruss that had reached out to me months and months and months ago. So I didn't really care too terribly much about his cards, but guess what? I did now. And so I wrote him. I said, "Look, man, I would love to, at the very least, buy the Conseco so I can give it to my friend who had showed me some kindness earlier. Will you please let me do that?" And we go back and forth. He's like, "No, I'm not really interested in selling just the one." And I was like, "Well, if I have to buy everything, I just need to make this right. So, please, let's figure out something here." And it was touch and go for several weeks. And I ended up, interestingly enough, being able to talk to the guy on the phone. And he had an interesting story about how Donruss and Leaf were kind of competing inside the company itself with which brand they were going to go forward with, who was going to be the player against Upper Deck, because they just started up with their premium brand in 1989. So that's why you see 1989 Leaf blue chips every now and then. Otherwise, there's no 89 Leaf cards other than that. There are for 88 and before, but no 89s going forward until 90, that they actually have their own card. It's not like just another variation, like another Canadian version of what Donruss would put out. So anyways, it was a fun conversation, but I really wanted to do what it took to get a Conseco card just so I could pass it on to Bob. So after several weeks, we ended up coming to an agreement where I was able to buy everything that he had. And it was a cool feeling because I didn't exactly know what I was getting. So, and the fun thing was some of them were sealed in these packs. And he said, yeah, they're just in a box. And on his last day, they just sent them home with them. So it's like, wow, I can't believe this. So I get the package, and there are multiples of each player in the set of almost every single player except for a couple of them. And I just could not believe it. Like, my jaw hit the ground because it was a true holy grail find. I probably at that point realized I had more blue chips in my possession than any other person on the planet did at that point, and maybe even total for everybody else. So it was a really exciting feeling. And the neat thing about it is I found out something that I don't know if anybody else knew, but two things. Number one, which I do know some people knew this, but there's a Leaf Blue Chips version and a Donruss Blue Chips version. And there might possibly be 4 different color variations of each one. I just don't know. Maybe there's only a couple variations, color variations of each, I'm just not sure. But based upon what I saw, I knew, of course, at least there's a Donruss leaf of each. So much to my extreme happiness, the package had a few different Canseco's. So I was able to give Bob his leaf one back, and I ended up sending it to him as a gift inside of an autographed copy of my book, and so happy to be able to do that. Even though it cost me quite a bit to get the entire collection of these, it actually turned out really well for me, because not only was I able to get another Canseco leaf card out of this back, which, by the way, within this time I decided to start picking up a few rare Canseco cards again. I was able to also get a Donruss Canseco blue chip, and I made a really nice profit after selling everything else. The cards were not in the greatest of shape. They weren't mint, but these are prototypes, so you can't ask for much. But when I started putting them on the market, there's some people that just went nuts after these. And the funny thing is, when it comes to cards like this, if I were to show you and you don't know what a blue chip card is, you might look at it and say, yeah, it's worth 10 cents. But some of those cards reached $750 each. And it's a big deal. The Canseco's, by the way, is what I'm talking about here. I didn't realize that I could do that well with those, but that's the truth right there. They're very hot cards, and so I was able to also keep one of them for trade bait, which was neat. And so I kept a leaf version and a Donruss version. Gave one to Bob to allow him to have his card back. And what else was there? And I had one to trade. I had a couple to sell as well, which almost more than paid for everything. But I had one to trade, and I ended up going to Matt, I believe it was, and we worked a deal with some other cards where I was able to get my A6 Donruss Highlights white letter card back into my collection. And so this one deal that I was trying so hard and pleading to get these cards back just so I could kind of make Bob whole again, it ended up working really well for me. And in fact, one of the McGuire cards I ended up trading to another guy that was really looking high and low for McGuire, and I ended up getting up Topps cloth back into my collection as well. So it was so fun to see how all of it came together. And it's funny because a lot of super collectors will never see all of these cards ever in their super collecting career. And so within a year, I was able to basically get all of them back that I really cared about. So it was fun. It was a fun experience. It's fun to talk about. I wrote about it earlier this year, if you want to check out on my blog at tnmanbaseballfan.com. And I'll go ahead and give you two more quick stories here. One of them everybody will know about. Another of them not many people do. Before I forget, the blue chips, whenever I had them, I remember going to the big baseball card show in TriStar. And it's fun. It's a fun place to go and look at the cards and possibly pick up some deals from time to time. But I remember going to a table, and these two guys were talking about a Jose Canseco super collector. And it's like, hey, they're talking about me. I have no idea who these guys are. And so I kind of interjected, and I feel like the guy was probably 45 or 50 or so. I can't even picture him in my mind, but I just remember I think he was older than me. And so he's just talking about this Canseco super collector. Yeah, man, this guy's crazy. He's got everything, this, that, and the other. I was like, oh, okay, I'm just listening to him. And then he stops. He goes, wait a second, you're him. He's like, you're the guy, you're that Canseco super collector. I was like, yeah, I am. I just sold out. He's like, oh man, I read everything that you write and this, that, and the other. And yeah, the dealer behind the table is like, oh, that's crazy. I can't believe that's you. And it's kind of fun. And so it turns out the guy that was the show goer I was talking to, he was a Maguire super collector. And so he gets out his phone, as he should, and show me all of his fun stuff that he has. That is just one of the great things that we have about technology, is we can share our collections with each other without physically having them with us, and it's kind of fun. You imagine having to do that in the 80s, like, hey, I've got Polaroids of my baseball card collection in the glove box. Let me show you what I have. So anyways, he pulls out his phone, and he's got this little paper that he has. It says Mark McGwire want list at the top. And, he wants the Topps cloth card and this, that, he's got all kinds of wild stuff, but the cards I'm talking about are on his list. And so I asked him, I said, hey, a question for you. Do you have any need for an 89 blue chip of McGwire? He's like, yeah. Why wouldn't I? Of course, that's like impossible to find. And I said, yeah, what if I told you that I had one? And he goes, I wouldn't believe you. I said, okay, well, let me show you a picture. I show a picture. I've got a Donruss and a Leaf version. And he goes, oh my gosh, I don't even think I've ever seen any of those like in real life before. Like, I don't even have them on my want list because I just assume I'd never see them. And he's like, how much are you asking? I was like, well, if I sell, probably $1,500 for the pair. And he goes, whoa, you know what? That's going to be worth every single penny of it. And it's interesting, Tanner, is out of everybody at the card show here, of all the thousands of people here, you and I might be the only ones that know that's worth that. And it's funny because he's right. Nobody else might know that in that show that those cards are worth that. And it just goes to show you that when it comes to super rare cards, you really only need a handful of people in the know that are like white hot about picking them up for them to be worth something. I mean, think about it. If you thought about what a 1989 Donruss Mark McGwire card was going to be worth, if somebody asked you maybe 5 minutes ago, you probably would have said 10 cents. Well, now you can say, yeah, it's possible that they can go upwards of $750 each. And of course, this blue chip, not the regular one. I mean, these are prototypes. They're never found in sets and never found in wax packs, and frankly, they're probably never meant to be in public. But anyways, that for me adds to part of the allure of having these cards. But it was really fun, just a really, really fun conversation with the guy all together, but especially because he knew what the blue chips were. So it's always neat running across those cards. So the next to last card I'm going to talk to you about is 1990 Donruss. There is a prototype called the aqueous set, or aqueous, however you want to pronounce it. Not many people know about these, but they look like regular 1990 Donruss cards. The only difference is on the back, it's stamped aqueous test or aqueous test. And it's kind of fun because if you don't know what you're looking for, you just don't know what it is. So, and I'll tell you what the aqueous test is. Donruss tried to do a water-based ink solution or something like that. Tested it out, and that's what those cards are. And you'll see fakes run up every now and then online, which is terrible because the Canseco, for example, will run you about $500. Some of the others will run less of bigger players, and that's mainly because the quantities of each are all over the place. I think like the Nolan Ryans, there's like quite a few more. So I think I've seen some of those go for like 300 or so instead. Maybe same with Will Clark, I don't recall, but anyways, it's fun. It's like I remember the first time I saw one was on eBay, and I was flipping out. I think I picked it up for $450, and I was super excited because that card was at the top of my list, just along with the 86 Donruss Highlights White Letter, just like the 88 Topps Cloth card, just like the 89 Donruss and Leaf Blue Chip cards. And so anyways, I picked up the 90 Donruss aqueous. Super, super excited. It's not a thrilling card to look at on the front though, y'all. It's just looks like a normal 90 Donruss card. But because of its extreme rarity, it's one of those cards that not everybody has. Not even the super collectors that have been in this for decades have all have them. So very, very special cards. So anyways, I get rid of that, and after I decide to come back in collecting, not super collecting, but collecting what I really, really want to focus on, I decided that 90 Donruss was going to make the list for the aqueous. And I believe Matt had that one also, because I think he bought it from me. And if I remember correctly, doing part of a deal with him for my trade bait blue chip and something else, I think I ended up getting that aqueous back as well. So it was kind of fun, because I don't know if I could call that the quadfecta, the junk wax quadfecta, because like every single one of those cards are worth several $100s, and they never come up for sale. So it was like the sense of completion, which is just amazing. So as a bonus story, I want to tell you a little story about Ace Novelty, which has been kind of fun for me to talk about. And I realize this podcast is running a little long because we're about 41 minutes in, but when you get me talking about these cards, I get excited, so I can't shut up about them. So we're gonna dive into the world of 1992 Ace Novelty prototypes. When I first saw them online, I saw a version of them that were oversized and had kind of a not a beat up look to them, but they were just very dated as far as the design goes, and you just know what you're looking at. It's definitely a 90s card, but you've never seen it before. It's the kind of thing where if there were multiples of them out there, like by a lot, by 90s production standards, they'd be worthless. But because there's none of them out there, they go for a lot of money. So I looked at them, and I saw that there were a couple of Conseco's up for sale. I go, that's strange. Man, the traffic out here is really loud. I guess that's what I get for walking Friday nights, because everybody's going out and doing stuff. But anyways, saw them on eBay. They were larger than normal size cards and blank back. And so it's like, well, this is interesting. And, there's Puckett and Ryan and Alomar and Biggio and, the main superstar guys from the 90s. And, it's kind of fun to see, but it's like, the seller was a guy that I had problems with in the past. And so I was like, well, so that kind of turned me off. The other thing that turned me off was these cards I'd never heard of that weren't even really cards. They were just like sheet cuts, and some of them were damaged. He put them up for sale for hundreds of dollars each. To make matters worse, I looked in the sales history. This is the worst thing, you guys. Like, you never want to see this, but it does happen. I looked in the sales history, and I saw that the sheet had sold for like 20 or 30 bucks, and like about a month before. So this guy buys them for 20 or 30 bucks, cuts them up, and puts each one for sale for like $100, $200, $300. I'm like, ah! And the kicker is these are selling. And I was like, dang it. But anyway, it was kind of a teeth gritting kind of situation there, but that's okay. So ultimately I ended up biting the bullet. I bought them. There's like an English version and a Japanese version, I think it was. Really cool, really cool kind of pieces, but they're not actual cards. So what ended up happening down the road is I caught wind of a real card. And let me set this up for you guys, by the way. These cards, like the actual real cards, not just the sheet cuts, for those who know what they are, they've been on people's want lists for decades. I'll give you an example. Kirby Puckett sold a few times for $350, which is nuts. So the problem is that I still hadn't seen the Conseco version yet. So I think ultimately what ended up happening is one hit eBay, and I don't exactly remember how much I picked it up for, but it's one of those situations where I knew I had to pick it up because of how rare it was, and I hadn't seen anything of it before and just didn't know anything about it. And I was able to do some research on them. As it turns out, first of all, it's kind of strange because like the backs of what I'd seen had like really high numbers, like 502 or 678. And so I did some research on them, and here's how the story goes for number one, the sheets, and number two, for the full card. So for the sheets, what had happened was Ace Novelty, and I think they're the ones that made those ugly looking troll dolls of the 90s, but they wanted to get into the baseball card game. So they created them, and it looked like they were actually going to be granted the license. So they printed a pallet or two of these sheets. And we're talking, apparently, to my understanding, they were going to be competing with Topps, Fleer Score, Donruss, and Upper Deck, and all that. So in Leaf and Stadium Club and yada yada yada. Well, at the 11th hour, apparently Major League Baseball denied their license. So Ace Novelty has these pallets of sheets, and they were instructed to take those pallets of sheets supervised to the dump and watch them be covered. Well, as the story goes, the guy that was supervising it apparently swiped one sheet for himself, kept it for 30 years or what it was, 1902, 12, so maybe 25 years or whatever, and said, okay, well, I guess now the coast is clear, I'll go ahead and try to sell it. Puts on eBay, gets 20 or 30 bucks for it, and that's kind of my understanding of how it went. So kind of an interesting, strange deal. So I still can't get over the fact that we may very well have had Ace Novelty baseball cards as part of our childhood. I mean, that's insane. And they're looking at doing a really big set. And not only that, there are cards that were look like they're Chinese, that were or Japanese, that were maybe German in a few of them. So there were multiple languages also. So they were apparently looking to really do some damage in the baseball card market. But it never happened, and all we really have are just a handful of cards that are floating around out there, and and these stories to go by. And so for me personally, this is what makes those cards so awesome. So going back to what I was telling you before, I ended up picking up one on eBay. And of course, when I saw one hit, I was stoked. Nobody really knew anything about it. Well, I did. I got it. I feel like I got it for 75 bucks or something. And so I wrote the person, I was like, man, I am so pumped I got this. Thanks so much. Do you have anything else? They're like, well, actually, I have another Conseco, and it's completely different. And it was wildly different from the sheet cut things I had. So I ended up buying it from them as well. And they said it was just like in some box with some other random cards. They don't know how they got there. So I was like, oh, okay, man, that's great. So I pick them up, and my super collection basically had all the sheet cuts and both of the cards. And these cards, by the way, they're the only ones I've ever seen my whole life. So it was really, really neat to have. But I still wanted to know if this guy was told to cover these in the landfill that were the sheets, why do I have in my hand actual real cards? And so as it turns out, they created maybe one set worth or something, I don't know, of these cards for approval to send to Major League Baseball. And they were ordered to be destroyed, but what happened apparently is the person that worked at the company ended up taking the cards, and instead of destroying them, he gave them out to the Little League team that he was helping out at or coaching. So these kids back in 1992 had these cards that they had no idea back then that were worth hundreds of dollars, or would be worth hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars cumulatively, I guess. So over the past couple decades, they've been filtering throughout the hobby. And, so that's kind of another neat thing about the story, is you're able to actually kind of track where they came from and why they're here. But ultimately, we're not even supposed to have these. We're not supposed to see them. So as I sold out, I ended up selling the sheet cuts and the cards because I didn't really care about any of them at that point as far as keeping them, until the bug bit me and I go, man, if I were to keep some, it sure would have been nice to have had those 2 cards. I don't care a whole lot, since I'm not a super collector, about those sheet cuts, even though I know super collectors would just die for those. But for me, in the current situation I'm in, holy smokes, that those 2 cards would be wonderful to have. So I reached out to the guy I'm friends with. His name's Earl. So Earl, if you're listening, hi there. And he ended up agreeing to sell them back to me, which was so nice of him. I don't know if I think I bought them from him. He has the sheet cuts, so he's probably the envy of many out there with them. But I have the cards because those are the ones I care about most. So over the past year, after selling out of everything, I now have back the A6 Donruss Highlights White Letter, the A8 Tops Cloth, the A9 Donruss Leaf Blue Chips, 90 Aqueous from Donruss, and the 92 Ace Novelty prototypes. So that's really all I have. These are true junk wax diamonds, and they, like I said, they can't necessarily be found in packs or anything. None of these are really supposed to see the light of day, which is what makes them so exciting to own. So it's kind of a fun thing, and any super collector or regular collector would love to see them, but most of them simply have not even seen them in real life. So but anyways, I hope this has been a little bit educational for you, so that way you can kind of keep your eye out on things of what's exciting and what's not. So like obviously the base commons are not exciting, but the prototypes are super duper exciting. Anytime you have a prototype of a card that had millions of them made, that has a strong core following, those are cards that are going to be super expensive. So anyways, I'll go ahead and wrap up for tonight, and I'll say, once again, if you have any questions or have any topics that you want me to talk about, feel free to reach out to me. Email is tanmanbaseballfan@gmail.com. My website is tanmanbaseballfan.com. Twitter is tanmanbbfan, and Facebook Tanner Jones, and also YouTube. You go to youtube.com/tanmanbaseballfan, which, by the way, I have a video that I just put out today showing my collection of woodcuts from the 19th century. So they span from 1865 to 1890, and they're so super cool. So keep an eye out on that, and let me know what you think. I hope you all have a fantastic night and an even better weekend. Take care.